Hello, I'm Steve Ryder and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. I am delighted to be hosting this episode in the company of my good friends Johnny Ward and Hayley Moore. And my main task today is going to be to try and keep this as close to an hour for our bumper Christmas preview as possible. Johnny, over from Ireland again. I suppose the Irish season so far has gone as it previously has, with Gordon and Henry de Bromhead making a quick start, but we have seen some good Mullins horses coming out recently.
Yeah, I still managed to make it here ahead of Hayley as well, just to throw that out there coming from Dublin. But like that beginner's chase on Saturday where you had 3 Grade 1 horses taking on each other at half 11, that just shows that I feel that Willie was reluctant to run his horses on the ground as it was. And it's still not really that testing, but it's just getting into the safer side. And we've had some amazing action, like really over the last week. I was in Cork for like a rescheduled meeting on Friday, saw Supreme Novice Contender in the first race. There was, and I'm not a massive fan of mares races, but there was a mares chase that was just spectacular to watch because the 2 horses heading the betting went toe for toe, and Paul Towning got up in the last kind of closing stages on a well-fancied winner, but with Henry de Bromhead's horse ran so well in defeat. And then some of the bumper performance over the weekend has been pretty spectacular in Ireland actually, and it's Christmas is on the way.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in Racing Recap. Hayley, you're at Plumpton yesterday. I tuned in for one race there. It was a novice handicap chase over 2.5 miles, and I think they jumped 6 with the low sun being an issue.
Yeah, it was a glorious day, but not ideal. You always knew there was going to be a slight issue when there was sunshine, which we hadn't really seen for a while. But similar to what Johnny was saying, it's been pretty dry, and you have just noticed the ground has dried up. But it's become that really testing, holding, tacky ground. So, the horses were sort of struggling to get home a little bit. But no, it's good racing. Sam Twiston-Davies was in fantastic form. He took the honours there. He had a treble, and I think Harry Bannister did the same up at Savills. So, no, it was good. It was a really good day's racing. Very festive feel as well, which was really enjoyable. So, no, I liked it. And there was a few local winners, so that the crowd were kept relatively happy. Unfortunately, we came close, but no cigar. So,
I think it was one horse that Sam was riding just absolutely flew the last fence, gave it about double the height.
Yeah, it was like watching like a reindeer going over the last fence, which was good. No, he's in great form. He started off the season really well, which is great to see. He sort of wears his heart on his sleeve, Sam Twiston-Davies. So he's had a really strong start to the new year, and I'm hoping it'll continue for them. It's quite interesting with this, obviously, big prize money up for grabs after the National with the Jockeys Cup taking place. So, it's all to play for. I think Harry Skelton's just leading the proceedings there. I think he'll keep a close eye on that $500,000.
Definitely. Yeah, Harry Skelton is going to be, riding a few of these horses that we're going to look at in our first section, which is Racing Recap. So the first race I want to review is the SSS Super Alloys 2.5 mile novices chase. Johnny, it was won by Jango Baie. I was really impressed with that. I thought it was an impressive round of jumping, especially at Cheltenham for his first time over fences.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't know if it's the same over here. We have I think there's a tendency in Ireland sometimes to kind of almost like wallow in bad decisions made by others or something like that. Or in this instance, Caldwell Potter, when I was watching the race in the press room in Cork, everyone was just jumping on, taking him on straight away after the race. And I was like, you have basically Connection saying after his chase debut, this horse wants it proper soft. And when he won at Leopardstown, which was his last start before that mad sale, it was really testing by Leopardstown standards last Christmas. Like, it was probably, like, in contrast to what Hayley's talking about now, it was really, really bad last Christmas, where, like, Leopardstown is probably perhaps the driest racetrack in Ireland. That was desperately tough ground. And I watched him the whole way. I was pretty happy with Caldwell Potter. I thought his jumping was excellent, slightly to one side, but excellent. Jango Baie, like, he's absolutely destroyed him. For a horse making his chase debut, which goes against what Nicky was saying, in terms of what you would do with the horse, I felt this was an exceptional performance. And, like, to me, he's underrated in terms of Cheltenham. Like, we have an issue now, what race do you go for? Because the intermediate race isn't there anymore unless you want to run in a handicap. I'm not sure. I think maybe the Arkle, to be honest. Now, that would potentially entail taking on Ballyburn. Would they stretch him out to 3 miles? Nicky's already said he wants further than 2 miles over hurdles. But the way he jumped and travelled, the problem, like, so he's big prices for Cheltenham. I'm just not sure where he's going to go, but Are you trying to tell me if Willie Mullins trained that horse and there was a bit of hype about him, given his hurdles form, he would be like, this was an exceptional form. You can't just say Caldwell Potter was still sent off 11-10 fairly hard in the betting. Yeah. He was banged there. Springwell Bay is a very good horse. I wouldn't be giving up on Caldwell Potter. I feel he may just want proper testing ground. This was his second start over fences. His first start was an egg and spoon start. You know, an egg and spoon race. I actually met Paul Nicholls at Punchestown in one of the outdoor bars last year at the festival, and I was really slagging him off for saying, like, you said this horse won't go to Cheltenham because he hasn't acclimatised yet. I mean, he's literally gone over the Irish Sea. Like, he's left Gordon Elliott to go to you, but now I'm not sure what his future is. There's a bit of a question mark over him, but I wouldn't be giving up on him yet. No,
there's talks of him dropping down in trip to 2 miles for the Lightning Novice Chase, where he could face Load of Sud, so that'd be brilliant. Just back to Jango Baie, Hayley, like, he's a model of consistency, 3 wins and 4 seconds from his 7 career starts. I think he kind of ran with penalties last season because he won the Formby on Boxing Day, but yeah, he's an exciting horse.
He is, and I think that he'll only improve. It was obviously quite a bit of inexperience shown with his jumping, but still very neat, almost a bit too careful. I'm sure that will get slicker. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. And it was quite brave sending him to Cheltenham. There's been a few different things that Nicky Henderson's done this season, like he's sent horses on their first runs to places like Ascot, which he wouldn't normally do. But I think it's just lack of opportunity for good horses and where to go. We saw that over the weekend with horses like Baloo going back over hurdles. You know, they look really good chasers, and there just isn't anything, so they've had to revert back to hurdles, which is quite frustrating for trainers at the top level not being able to run their horses where they want to. But he looked really special. I was very taken with him last season, the horse, and he did very little wrong, so it was exciting to see him put in a display like that and beat, obviously, Caldwell Potter. But like Johnny, I wouldn't be writing him off. I thought he'd been off the track for a very long time. Then he headed up, good bit of placing at Carlisle. He was pretty spectacular at some jumps around there. Yeah, exactly, and on soft ground. I was very surprised to see him running, if I'm honest with you, at Cheltenham. It was a quick backup after a 340-odd day break, and the ground. So 2 really obvious things, having been so patient and getting it right, not rushing him when they could have run him, when they had some ideas of where they were going to take him, and they said, no, he hasn't acclimatised yet. And I know that sounds mad, because like you said, he's just gone over the bit of water, a bit like when they come from France. But Paul Nicholls, even though he's adapted and he's got different ways of training, you know, he's got different methods, he's got a round canter, he's got a flatter canter. His main way of training is going up that big steep hill, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, and it works, and we know that he's a very good trainer. So until he's seeing him show what he looks for in his horses at home, you know, training well up that big famous hill, why would you run them until they have acclimatised, conditioned and got used to his method and way of training? So they gave him all the time in the world, and then they brought him out the 1st of December, and I couldn't believe it, less than 2 weeks later he was running on ground that probably isn't ideal. So I think back to the drawing board, he's one next time to be wary of, and I wouldn't give up on him after the weekend's display.
Maybe they felt this was a good time to see out exactly where we are with them ground-wise, and they say never again. But this obviously would throw the festival into major doubt, because as much as last year was heavy or whatever, you're not expecting that in March. So, I don't know. I felt people were too quick to jump on him. Yeah. It was his second start in a really good race, in which for 80 to 85% of the race he was very, very good. You know, there's a suggestion now he'll have a wind up or something like that, or they'll do something with him. I wouldn't be giving up on him at all.
No, whenever there's big money involved, everyone seems to want to go, oh, you wasted your money there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the attitude that's coming from it. Jango Baie, 149 the handicap has given him this morning. So as much as Nicky Henderson says, oh, we can go up or down in trip, you can run in the Novice Handicap Chase off a mark of 149 and be perfectly well weighted in that. Next race we'll look at is the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 coming soon handicap chase. You'll be getting into Sonic the Hedgehog soon, Johnny.
I think it was the first game I played. This is going back to when it was like Italia 90. I was remember on the Mega Drive, and Sonic the Hedgehog was the big thing then. But a lot of water under the bridge here, and obviously, Chianti Classico was, I suppose, the story of the race, really.
Yeah, obviously sad, probably going to be career ending. Slipped a tendon, which it was just unlike him in the finish, and it's good that something obviously transpired, but
Yeah.
it's a sickener for Connections, really. But King Turgeon, 3 from 3 this season after a wind-up, I thought jumped really well at Aintree, and I just didn't think he quite jumped as well. I think it was 3 out and 4 out, made slight mistakes, and it's going to be interesting going forward, though.
It is, and the way that we saw him earlier on win the Grand Sefton, I know it wasn't the cleanest of runs through either. It got a little bit tight in the closing stages, but he stayed on really well, and I think he's continuing to progress. I don't think he's shown his full potential yet. Obviously, it would have been nice to have seen Chianti Classico at his ultimate best, but yeah, like you say, real kick in the teeth for Connections, who have had some amazing days out. You know, when you're part owned by Sir Francis Brooke and you're winning at Ascot, and then to have a Cheltenham Festival winner, he's such a special horse. So fingers crossed he can be okay. But yeah, I think we were all dreaming about him lining up in the Grand National. So now we've got King Turgeon, who he obviously stays particularly well. Our Power was back in second, and he won some fantastically competitive handicaps last season. So that's really strong form for the winner to get the better of him. He obviously had that awful fall then in the Gold Cup at Newbury last season, so it was good to see him back. He's got plenty of zest still, and I think that he'll be one that will probably pick up another big handicap this season after that display.
Yeah.
But King Turgeon, he just looked as though he's going to be pretty exciting if the Connections do want to think about going to the Grand National. For me at this stage, it's a bit too early, but he showed lots of enthusiasm, and he picked up really well, and he's just a thorough stayer. So I just worry if he's got enough toe. That would be my question really with him.
And it's a classier race as well. The handicappers put him up £6 to 139. So thankfully, the handicapper kind of took the view of Our Power is the stick to rate the race around, as opposed to Chianti Classico, because that was always going to be the danger. Johnny's 33 to 1 for the Grand National. Obviously, the race has changed complexion and got classier in recent years. I'd worry that he'd get in off 139.
Yeah.
But if he wins again,
he's gone
he would have a
from
chance.
his progression's been what? So like he was running in handicaps in last November. He's been kept busy. He was running it for 108. Like so, I don't know. I mean, the National is just such a different race now. It's almost like a glorified staying hurdle race in some respects. The fences are that easy to get over, and I'm not sure he's the type for it. Just one other point on that. I don't know why we didn't have, we'd no Irish runner in this race. That doesn't make any sense to me. Our prize money in Ireland at the moment has really gone backwards. This is 57 grand sterling, and we didn't have a runner in the race. And you are avoiding Willie Mullins in these types of meetings. And I know Gavin Cromwell and Gordon have come over, and Henry to an extent, but I did feel the one strange aspect of this meeting was the lack of Irish runners, because like you rock up then in the beginner's chase in Ireland, you're taking on 3 Grade 1 horses trained by Willie Mullins. So it's like, why not come over here? If you can bring 3 or 4 on the boat, it's actually not that expensive.
No.
And yeah, it was just a bit strange, but obviously I felt very sorry for a connection of Chianti Classico.
Definitely. You did have an Irish winner, cross country. Stumptown did the business. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether Gavin Cromwell, if he wins at the Cheltenham Festival, brilliant. I worry that if he gets beaten at the Cheltenham Festival, whether we're going to see horses like him minded a bit next year, with obviously it going back to a handicap.
Yeah, I'm going back to a handicap. That was one of the big talking points of the changes they've made. Like, to be honest, like the cross country race, I can kind of take it or leave it. But this actually was a great spectacle. You couldn't. I tipped up Cocoa Beach. I was very disappointed in him. He again stopped to nothing, which was the case at Punchestown, because he was hot favourite that day against Stumptown. But like when Stumptown was coming up the hill, I was like, is Mr. Coffey going to do him here? You know, finally win a race over fences. So if the two of them do rock up in this race, and all the other classy horses that could run in it, because like we've had really, really good horses trying it, even in Ireland this season. Even Enda Bulger's good novice went for, whose name escapes me, the one he disappointed. But all of these good horses are going, including the likes of Cocoa Beach. But Stumptown loves it. He really does love it. And Keith Donoghue is brilliant over these fences. But I wouldn't be amazed if Stumptown and Mr. Coffey were sort of, you know, jumping the last almost upsides again come March. Yeah,
he's unlucky not to be 4x4. Stumptown on his Banks debut had that really weird thing where he got absolutely poleaxed by unseated his rider. It was just unbelievable that day.
I just wonder if Mr. Coffey's just handicapping himself at the Cheltenham Festival, because he was a little bit closer in the run this time. But
he doesn't look ungenuine though.
No,
like it's just
amazing, isn't he?
In the last meeting, he absolutely flew home.
Yeah.
This time, he was a bit more in contention in comparison to his first go over the cross-country jumps. And I thought, oh, maybe today's the day. And he came so close.
Yeah.
I love him, though, because he's got a lot of character.
Yeah.
And Late Night Pass ran another good race as well for Tom Ellis and Gina Andrews. But, yeah, Mr. Coffee, I think I'm just going to have a bet on him come Cheltenham Festival if he's in the cross-country race.
Just make it place only.
Yeah, well...
Didn't Keith win on Tiger Roll in this race?
Yeah.
So I was there that day, and I remember my narrative in my report was that Keith Donoghue was doing wonders to ride horses with his weight.
Oh, God.
He's riding 11.4 here.
Yeah.
And what he's done in terms of like his fitness regime off the racetrack, and obviously his diet and all of that, but like he's literally performed wonders. What's that, like 7 years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago? Now he's really normal and he's able to manage, and he's a real example to jockeys with weight problems, because he's doing 11.4 here probably fairly comfortably. And that day with Tiger Roll, he's like, it's amazing I haven't retired at this stage. So fair play to Keith, and he's such a good rider. Like, he's so talented, and his relationship with Gavin Cromwell is bearing a lot of fruit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the handicapper does when Delta Work and Cocoa Beach are done, because they will have to be reassessed. And depending on how much they're dropped down, will be whether the O'Learys obviously will take their chance in the race, I think. You touched on, obviously, weight. Charlie Deutsch did an unbelievable job to get down to the weight for Gemirande, Hayley. I was impressed with his performance, and the more I watched the replay of it, the more impressed I got of it, because it was only hands and heels in the finish.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think the horse had plenty left still, and I think if he was challenged earlier, he would have gone earlier. I think it was a very cute ride, and I think Charlie has a lot of faith, a lot of confidence in the horse, and that's why I said, yeah, it's a 100-gram race. I'm going to make sure that I'm down to 10 stone 2. He's got a baby on the way that's due at the end of December. So, he's got to get as much money in the bank now to pay for nappies. So it was great. He's a beautiful rider. I love watching him ride Ascot. That's when I think he's sensational with getting horses into rhythm at a very difficult track. But he was brilliant again round Cheltenham. And to starve and make sure you've done the weight and ride like that. I saw he'd eaten a little bit of fruit or something. He wasn't completely empty, but he made sure he was going to not mess it up. And I think this is an improving horse, and typical of Venetia Williams' horses, they just get better with a fence. I was really impressed, and she's having a remarkable season. The prize money she's earned, considering she's not had that many winners. She's had a nice amount of winners, but not loads. She's not up in the 50s or anything like that. And the prize money she's got is fantastic. It just goes to show how well she is at how good she is at placing her horses. And she never commits. She never tells you where or when she's going. No. She keeps her cards close to her chest, because I think she just likes to really think about it. And I think it sort of reminds me of Willie Mullins trying to get an answer out of him sometimes. They just don't say anything until they've really sat down and thought about it, not influence. They shut the doors and make the right decisions, which is what she's doing brilliantly this season. Definitely,
yeah. It was after Jello won the Peterborough Chase.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go next? Ask me tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Just not interested. But this is 3 weekends on the trot. The Royal Pagaille in the Betfair Chase, Jello in the Peterborough, and now Gemirande. Watching it back, I thought it was interesting, because Charlie set off third last, and then just the horse obviously has its own way of doing things.
Well, he spoke about this afterwards, where he's I think what was his word? He's I find it here. He said he's contrary, or he's cantankerous. His actual wording was he's quite ignorant in his way. But he was basically ignorant. So, but he almost meant that in a kind of a nice way. It's like, I'm going to let you do your thing here. It was a brilliant ride to watch. Fugitive, I thought, ran a cracker, maybe the ground a little bit on the fast side for him. Madara very well backed as well. I think we're going to see a lot from this yard and handicap chases over the next while. Be well backed, particularly going into Cheltenham. But it was a cracking race to watch. Yeah,
Madara apparently had a slight setback. Dan Skelton did an interview afterwards. There's obviously that handicap chase, a very similar race on New Year's Day. I just checked with Bet365. Gemirande is 5-1 favourite for that. He's been put up £8 to 144, but you wouldn't think that would stop him from winning again, really.
No, and something Venetia is very good at, and something I really admire, is she is capable of getting a horse to win a couple of big handicaps, which I think is near on impossible. Once you've had your one big day out, that's it probably for the season, being realistic. Whereas she's got a knack of normally getting them in at quite a low weight, letting them come up the handicap and winning another big pot, and that's what she does so well. So it was...
They're brilliant races to watch as well, because the margin for error in these races is so low. and then for Venetia to train a horse to potentially do this twice. That's why, like, I find these handicap chases are far more interesting a lot of the time than Grade 1 contests because there's so little margin for error. Whereas if you have like sort of uncompetitive-ish Grade 1 races, and it's not good for the betting either. Like people actually want to bet on competitive racing. But this was just a cracking race to watch, and like Madare was so close all the way. You're happy until the last sort of 100 yards.
Yeah, you say about margins. I was on Fugitive, and I was screaming at the telly, going, "Please get a Gapshaw," because there was a moment where, and then just didn't quite go through with his effort. Probably the ground would have done that. The two obviously collided at the second last. It was just an interesting race to watch. You say about Venetia's progressing through handicaps. Like Martator already this season has won two of those handicaps at Ascot, and it's just done so well.
I think it goes to show you see a horse like I don't know, Stage Star win a big handicap like we did with him at Cheltenham last year. And
what it takes out of you, like
he hasn't. He ran a bit better. He finished 7th. Like he was, trying to do his usual way of going out there, but he's just clearly too high. Obviously needs to come down a few more pounds. I think it was a mark of 155. He kind of progressed up to that he won off, but he's just struggling now that he's gone up into the 160s. So it's really hard. And I don't know. I'm sure Paul Nicholls will get him back, but so far since that big victory, he's just found life tough.
Yeah. One horse who may have rated himself out of handicaps is Libberty Hunter. Thought he was an impressive winner of the 2-mile handicap chase. He's up £7 to 151. He's been introduced by Bet365 into the champion chase market at 40 to 1 for the champion chase. He's probably worth that step up in grade. Hayley, Isaderi, I thought, ran a brilliant race. First time cheap pieces from the front, a change in tactics, and I thought he ran a stormer. He did.
He'd have enjoyed the ground conditions. He does have quite a lovely way of going. He's a good moving horse. I was just gutted that Liberty Hunter was straight enough on his return, but I know that Evan Williams has always held him in hugely high regard for the ruckers. He's always spoken like, he's pretty special. I don't really see him as a champion chaser, though. I don't know if he's quite got the pace for that. He didn't blow me away, and I know that...
Apparently he wants proper soft ground.
Yeah, and that's why unless it is...
You might get that.
If he does, I think it'd be ground dependent. But he did it quite easily in the end, Liberty Hunter, and Isaderi ran a fantastic race. He jumped well, had a much clearer run than what he did round at Newbury, where he just found a couple of doors closing on him. But it was a lovely ride from Freddie Mitchell, who's had a good time of things this season. Fantastic £5 claim. He doesn't ride like a £5 claimer, so you've always got to factor that in. But no, it was just a bit unfortunate that Liberty Hunter was just too good on the day and came flying past him. Lucky for Harry Cobden to pick up the ride as well. Obviously, usual rider out on the sidelines, unfortunately. But he looks an exciting horse for Evan Williams, as he's always believed the horse is. So we'll watch with interest, I guess. Yeah,
Liberty Hunter finished second in the Grand Annual. The one I had in my eye for this race afterwards for the Grand Annual was Etalon. The handicap's dropped him £2 to 135, and I just think the way that he's been campaigned this season has definitely been with a ring around March.
Never dangerous in the constant running, it was funny, like watching Cheltenham last year when Dan Skelton started to kick into gear. There was such an element of, like, I think, from my perspective, I didn't want Irish horses winning every race at all. So I had a real cheeky regard for Dan Skelton.
Well, it was like Langadang, bang, unexpected party, bang, return to form.
Where have I seen this before? And responding well to cash is the word. But I want trainers to target Cheltenham. That's how it has always been. That's why I was slagging Paul Nicholls. I was like, you're the master of Cheltenham, and now you're running away from it. And I actually think there is a bit of that with him. I think he goes to Aintree if he thinks he can win at Cheltenham. I think you should just run your horse at Cheltenham unless it's completely unsuitable. Cheltenham for me is our Olympics, but Dan Skelton won't be accused of running away from Cheltenham.
Definitely not.
Keep an eye on Etalon.
Definitely for the Grand Annual. Albert Bartlett is going to be the last race that we review in full. JetBlue, impressive 6.5 length winner. Probably isn't the strongest race, looking back in hindsight, but I thought it was impressive.
No, it wasn't. And obviously, like, the Skyjack hijack price, I was amazed. I couldn't believe he was 11 to 8. It looked like he might have been a bit over the top, but he was taken on. I mean, even Condor General was very good the day before. And JetBlue, he just looks a real stayer. And I think he's with his third different trainer, but he's done hardly any racing at this trip. And with respect, like, the Albert Bartlett is a race that... I feel anyway in Ireland that the trainers are inclined not to run their best horse in it. It's a real grueling race, and he's not. If he runs in anything, it's going to be that. To have a Cotten's a very good trainer. I think he was put in at like 25.
25 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be dismissing that. He likes Cheltenham, and he really does stay well.
Yeah.
And it may not be an especially competitive race. Like I'm not sure the Cheltenham bumper last year was necessarily the strongest in the world. So the Irish novices this season haven't really set the world on fire. So I wouldn't be dismissing him.
No, definitely not. Yeah, the fact that he's available at 25 to 1 probably says it all around the race afterwards. But James Reevely got off and said the UK style of racing suits him much better as a stayer than kind of French when they crawl and sprint.
Yeah, and the fact that he managed to win on ground, which I don't think is his optimum either. You look at his French runs, it was always really testing ground, heavy ground. So for him to come out and do that, and obviously his jumping wasn't very economical in the early part, that got better. So I think there's room for improvement, and that's on top of a over 6 length victory, and an easy victory at that. So if his jumping can get slicker, a bit more cut in the ground, that could be ideal. I'll certainly be keen to follow him in if it's, even if it's just soft ground, and I'd expect more to come from him with the jumping, probably sort of sharpening up. They'll probably make sure they school him over British hurdles or however you want to call them. Obviously they've changed a bit as well, but it's very different to racing over in Auteuil and those more brush fence style. So he was careful, but then he got the hang of it and realised he proved he's versatile and can adapt. But I'm sure that they'll be hoping to come back with it maybe with it a bit softer as well. So.
Yeah,
I don't think really good horses tend to run in this race. I don't train horse, but I wouldn't be running a very good potential Gold Cup horse in the Albert Bartlett ever. No, like I'm thinking like Very Wood, Vanillier, Bertie's Dream, like sort of average horses have won this race from Ireland. And if JetBlue goes there, I imagine that a lot of the good horses will just not be running in this race. They'll be running in the shorter races. Yeah,
it's 25 to 1. Could look big in hindsight when we're looking back in March. Johnny, I want to come to you for the Irish action over the past week. Some novice chases really caught the eye. Obviously, Marshborough beating Tully Hill. You had Dancing City that won the day we recorded last week at Punchestown. Then you had Lecky Watson beating Slade Steel yesterday.
Yeah, I might just start in Cork because I was there, as I said, on Friday. Kellis, he won the maiden hurdle. Yeah. I think he was introduced at give or take 20s for the Supreme. Yeah. His main market rival in the race for Rob Coeur and Henry de Brom had kind of bombed out, but it was still a very classy performance for a horse who's only had one start. I think by Mass Marvel, lovely pedigree. A couple of others in the race. Fancy Girl, who actually beat Dice Ardinos in a point, I think, but has kind of had training problems. She was really, really good in the Mare's Maiden Hurdle. And I was working for Racing TV, and I actually had to present the prize afterwards because there was no one there. So it was kind of a bit of a weird one, just giving Paul Townend and the horse, like, it was like, but my tipping has been so out of sorts of lately. I was like, I'm actually better at just presenting prizes after racing it. But I did tip a winner or two since. But the Spindlebury Majestic Force race was spectacular to watch. Yeah. Majestic Force's jumping was, like, this is why this race did everything for me because, like, Darrell Keefe was deputising for Rachel Blackmore, is now back, but he couldn't have gotten Majestic Force to jump better. But Paul Townend held on to Spindlebury and just didn't go after her and kind of hoped that Majestic Force would just come back. Yeah. And that's exactly what she did after last. She was low at the last, you could tell she's getting a bit tired, but it was such a fusion of really good jumping, but also like trying to preserve a bit for your horse at the end. So I thought she was brilliant.
Just on that, it was funny. So this was about 2:50 in the afternoon or something. And I've got
2:47.
And I've got to leave for the school run at 3 o'clock. And I turned it off. They jumped the last and I turned off. And then when I came back after the school run and flicked the result up, I was like, what happened after the last? I had to go back and watch it.
That's funny though. That's the way it did look like for much of the race, in fairness. And I just thought to watch a race, and it was like a mare's chase, which isn't exactly what floats my boat, but it was just the quality of the jumping and the two horses going kind of toe to toe in some respects. On the Saturday Marshborough, I just felt I did tip him. I tipped him at odds on because he's getting weight off 2 horses with respect to I don't feel of his potential. No. And Agent Master's ridden by, he's with respect, he's ridden by an amateur who wanted many rides in a race like this, did nothing wrong to horse. And Tully Hill, who had some, I love seeing 4-year-olds go over fences at this stage. He was exceptional, I thought. It was just that moment, that kind of between the second last and the last, when Mark Walsh, and he was sort of easy to back. So I was like, how fit is this horse, or how is he this? I thought that was exceptional. I really did. It was, for me, it was the performance of the weekend.
Definitely. Yeah. 5-1 for the Arkle, Marshborough. Would that be of interest to you?
It's just...
He'd obviously lose the allowances by then.
Yeah.
But
the one thing in fairness about getting rid of the turners or turn it into a handicap is that it does sort of take that. I don't really necessarily see that many novices, top class novices, running a handicap. So I think like the old days, it might just throw you into the Arkle.
Yeah.
If he rocked up in the day, even against Ballyburn, I'd be very respectful of him. He's an exceptionally good horse and so lightly raced. And I actually had to notice as well, his sire, who's like Japanese bred by Deep Impact, has now been brought over to Ireland. Yeah. So he's going to stand to a few nice mares there, I'd say. But what a performance.
Yeah, superb.
And sorry, I should mention as well, the mare in the bumper, future prospect.
Yeah.
First Order of St. George, I think, that Willie has had from a really good family. And she was just... like when Patrick said I was surprised what she found, exceptional performance. So it was just brilliant racing over the weekend.
Yeah, and then also one on Calypso Chance at Navan on Sunday. So yeah,
Patrick rides,
I know,
which was like again like John McConnell's horse who was second had won his bumper by 25 lengths, and he just rocked on by him. So some exceptional bumper performance at the moment.
Yep. Hayley, concentrating on the UK stuff.
Oh God, there was so much. Talking of the Irish runners, we had who come over for Gordon Elliott.
Yeah.
Still unbeaten.
She's really impressive. Obviously, she's quite ground dependent, Johnny. I thought that was one of the main reasons, in search of better ground, right opportunity, get the bit more Cheltenham experience. Probably see her back in the springtime. Whether or not it would be January meeting, possibly not. Maybe for the festival with something. I think she's got a mark of 130, so she looks pretty competitive. And obviously getting the better of Joy Use, who probably was appealing to a lot of people as being quite well handicapped. And to be fair, she ran a good race, albeit in defeat for Nikki Henderson. And then away from some of the obvious big races that we saw. I was enjoying Lingfield last week. It was fantastic. Like just midweek, I think Monday afternoon we were there, and just felt like there were a lot of connections there. Winning owners
makes so much difference.
Massive difference. Trainers all seem to be there. Everyone's been very complimentary of how Lingfield rides nowadays. The drainage is so much better. They've invested a lot of money. Bygone, hopefully, the days when it's abandoned, when there's like a little bit of rain.
Can I just come in on that? The trainers going racing, and I know it's a small thing, there's too much racing. I still think it's optically so bad when, the old days everyone would be around the parade ring to see like the winner come in. That's kind of stopped in Ireland now. And partly it's because sometimes there are no connections there. The owner's not there. And because there's so much racing now, trainers, a lot of top trainers barely go racing anymore. And I just think if you're an owner, there's nobody there, the trainer's not there, or you're a race scorer, like what example is that setting? And I can see why the trainers don't go because there's so much racing. But I think optically they should be there if they can.
Yeah.
I do think that.
But no, it was lovely because you had lots of the big trainers there, and it's probably a bit more of a relaxed day's racing for them. So they are like brilliantly accessible, and you're not battling for airtime with them. And we had a really good mares race with Diva Luna and Met Kiina going head to head. And Diva Luna, we hadn't seen her for quite a while. I think she'd just been a bit off colour. I can't remember if it was a bad blood or a dirty scope or something. So they just minded her. She came back. She'd been off the track for a while. Met Kiina was sort of race fit. She'd just been outdone by one of Ben Pauling's the last day, who looks a pretty exciting horse as well. He's already sort of 2 from 2 already this season. But anyway, I'll focus on Diva Luna. I think now she's got a run under her belt. I'll be following her for the rest of the season. I still thought she ran a great race, and then obviously you're going to be high praise of Met Kiina because she's clearly got a lot of ability as well. Noel Racing Syndicate, Noel Feely Racing Syndicate, have got an amazing
they've got
record.
Some good horses
It's been incredible the amount of winners they've had. So I don't know. I'll be following Diva Luna off the back of I thought was a good return to action. And then there was a Hollygrove Cha who won down at Fontwell, and she's just like unbeaten. So it was a couple of like local meetings, but
you're at home in all walks of life.
There was there were just some fillies that I thought, no, I'm going to definitely be tracking these for the rest of the season. So away from all the obvious ones, I thought it'd be worth giving them a little bit of a mention.
Excellent. There's two that I just wanted to mention. Why Not beating Ottesini and West Balboa in the Bet365 Doncaster Mares Hurdle. I thought that was a really good performance. Ridden brilliant by Alice Stevens for Henry Daly. Well supported in the market. And then the other was Hayti Couleur beating Transmission and Peaky Boy in the 3 mile, 1.5 furlong handicap chase. I thought he could be one for the National Hunt Chase. That obviously now has a ceiling of 0 to 145 for novices. He's up £5 this morning to a mark of 135. He just looked a proper stayer.
Transmission, such a solid yardstick this season as well.
Exactly, and had good Cheltenham form as well.
Yeah.
So and so did Peaky Boy, obviously winning over 2.5 miles the time before. So I thought Hayti Couleur was probably one for the National Hunt Chase later in the season. And that brings to an end Race and Recap. Before we get into our Christmas preview, just to let you know that our sponsor Bet365 have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race before 8 AM on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you out at the bigger odds. Full terms and conditions can be found on the website. So we've got lots of action to get into over the Christmas period. The first race I want to preview is on Saturday at Ascot. It's the 225, the Long Walk Hurdle. We have 12 entries, including last year's winner Crambo. But Johnny, strong leader that heads the market, and I've been impressed with what he's done over 3 miles recently.
Absolutely, and obviously we don't know who's going to necessarily turn up here, but I do feel we have a strong Irish contender in the Wall Park. Now, he was bought by JP McManus. Now, when he obviously beat Gowroad the last, so that form's worked out very well. He's just been really nicely progressive. He was, when he won at Galway, when he beat Kings Hill, I like that front a lot because I kind of remember thinking that he might be being slightly vulnerable that day, and he looked a little bit vulnerable coming into the dip, but just the way he just finds a lot. I love those stairs that seem to be keeping a bit in reserve. He ended up bolting up that day, then went over off 145, well fancied, won again. So I feel he'll be a big contender in terms of if he goes over, which I presume he probably will, because I don't think he'll take on the Irish this Christmas.
No, there's talks of him obviously being put away for the attempts in March, but JP McManus then buys him. I think it just will work out whether he then has a stayers hurdle contender. The Wall Park is 100 to 30 with Bet365. Strong leader, the favourite at 9 to 4. Last year's winner Crambo in at 6 to 1. Hayley, who do you like of this?
Well, I was really impressed with strong leader at Newbury. He'd had a racecourse gallop on the Newbury Gallop this morning, so he wasn't going to be ring rusty. There was a lot of pressure. I think Ollie Murphy was really nervous. Obviously, Grade 1 winner, wanting to start off well for the new season, and I thought he was impressive. There was a brief moment I thought, maybe he's not going to get the better of Montmoral. He did. Nichols was having a fantastic day that day, winning everything, but then Ollie's horses have had a great time, and things had a good season as well. His form at Ascot's pretty solid as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with the run when he finished second to Blue King Daru last season. So I thought that was a positive. I think he'll only step forward what he did at Newbury. I know he had the racecourse gallop, but he's quite a big horse. And I think fitness-wise, he'll strip obviously fitter for the run. And the race is spread out nicely as well. I don't think it should have come too soon. Obviously, he didn't have a massive layoff during the summer anyway, because he won at Aintree at the back end of the season. He was still going. He's very, very likeable, and I think he's improving all the time. He ran well at Cheltenham behind some good horses. Interestingly, they put cheap pieces on that day, and they've started off, when he went to Aintree, they didn't bother with them. When he ran at Newbury, they haven't bothered with them. So I don't know, if anything, it was bizarrely just probably a bit of greenness, even though they'd won a lot. I don't know, but I think he's genuine. I think he's uncomplicated, and I'm just hoping that he'll be good enough to get the better of the Wall Park. But obviously, that's an exciting horse, and it is a bit of an unknown. So I wouldn't be too ready to say, strong leader's the better horse. I think it will surround the race with a lot of intrigue, if anything.
Plenty of Ollie Murphy, Gordon Elliott as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of backstories there.
Yeah.
I just don't think strong leader's ever going to look that impressive.
Yeah,
it's one of these stays that's just
very
going to keep going.
That's what you wanted. That's exactly what you wanted in the staying hurdler.
Definitely. I'm hoping that we see more from Crambo. He's obviously got a good record fresh, but his season very much petered out last season, so I'd like to see him back to form for Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke. Arguably the highlight of the Christmas period is the King George. This race obviously could change complexion with runners being supplemented. Currently, the Bet365 market is Spillane Tower head in the market 11-4, has to be supplemented. Factor File looks unlikely to be supplemented, but is next in at 3-1. You've then got Grey Dawn in at 7-2, Corbett's Cross 13-2, Envoy 7-1, and Banbridge at 8-1. Johnny?
All of the judges are on Banbridge here, and like seriously, the only doubt about this horse is stamina. I mean, he has everything else. In the Hilly Way, he was sent off. He was sent off 16s. Now you could say that was on the back of he disappointed behind Found at 50, but like the ground at Cork was yielding, which is probably what he kind of wants. He is definitely ground reliant, and I remember I thought he was overpriced at Punchestown last year on the basis that he had his ground, and I think Dino Blue was totally overrated all along. So he came good that day. But if you go back, and you nearly forget this when he beat San Ra and Peak Dory last year, he won at Kempton. Yeah. He's already won over 2.5 extended, right? His pedigree is completely in terms of staying, at least giving it a good go. If he stays 3 miles, Spillane Tower has to be supplemented. But everyone says he wants cutting the ground. The ground is, I think, good at the moment. Yeah. Maybe good. The forecast does not suggest the ground's going to be any worse than good to soft. They're not going to water to make it any worse. So I know JP is on the record as saying he wants a runner here and he wants a runner at Leopardstown. But all of his runners, this race won't really suit them unless the ground and Fact Five is not going to run. So Corbett's Cross and Spillane's Tower, I don't really see them running on good ground, so he has to make the call on Friday. I believe the plan is to supplement him, but then you look at the others in the race. I wouldn't really be afraid of anything in terms of Banbridge. I know it's a bit of a question mark. Will he stay? Hewick, I think, is probably going to go over hurdles. For all that, this race for me looks a good one for Hewick, but like Kempton's quite a. This is a really unique race because you're turning all the time. It's really it's a real test. You have to properly stay, even though it's a flat track, if that makes sense. But he likes the track and he will love the ground. And on form, there's no way he's an 8-1 chance for me. No, he was running a superb race, wasn't he, last time? Trying to concede £10 to Energamy. Yeah,
I thought he was just unfortunate. I do think that Energamy's jumping just intimidated him slightly, and as they do naturally just move away from it, unfortunately it just cost Richard Egan gravity and balance. It's one of them things you can't sit to it, but otherwise I felt as though he was possibly coming to get to Energamy. I was really impressed with him at Kempton last season back in January. There was a lot of trepidation whether or not he'd run because of the ground conditions. That's always something that connections have gone on about, that he needs a nice sound surface to be at his best. Thankfully it was on the sort of good enough side of things, and he was impressive when he got the better of Pick Dory. I think he proved that he can handle easing the ground with that unseat at Cork the other day. He's proven that he likes Kempton, albeit it's a bit further, but I think he's going to be really exciting. I thought that he'd be the one that represented the value and would take a fair bit of beating. So at this stage, I'm going to have to agree with Johnny. It's a top price at 8-1. Now you're taking a bit of a chance that I think the over round on oddschecker is like 97%. So obviously that doesn't take into account there might be a supplement. But I don't know. He may be supplemented, but at this stage, for Lance Tower, he's not going to get his ground. As simple as that. It looks virtually impossible to get his ground. Yeah, and there's question marks around those at the top of the market. Grey Dawn obviously had that hard race in the Betfair Chase. Corbett's Cross, albeit that obviously the weights were against him at Wexford. I wasn't too enthused around his comeback. Envoy was poor in this, went 7th in 2022. The one that I'd give a chance to was L'Homme Pressé. He has just a brilliant record fresh. He's won fresh for the last 4 seasons. He won the Fleur-de-Lis Chase last year, would have finished second behind Brave Man's Game in this in 2022.
when he unseated
Yeah.
or fell at the last. Venetia Williams, we've touched on her already in Racing Recap. Like, her form at the minute is just fantastic at these weekends and targeting big races. So I thought around 10 to 1, I thought L'Impresse might be worth.
Does
worth a
jump
go.
left?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a concern for me. But yeah, I mean, Venetia, I wouldn't disagree though. I think those at the head of the market are eminently vulnerable. I'm a little bit disappointed there is more of an Irish, decent ground, as long as it's safe ground. We should have some Irish horses run over. Like the King George is, everyone in Ireland loves this race, watching it wherever you are in Ireland. So I wish there were more going over, but as it is, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been over. Yeah, I've only been once for the Boxing Day, and it was when Q Card beat Vautour and Don Cossack fell. That was a that was some renewal.
Yeah, I remember Kicking King winning it, and this guy dressed as Santa Claus running across the course.
Oh God, yeah.
Ted Walsh saying he'd want to kick up the hole live on TV. It was like, and I was only getting into racing at the time. And that they were like, Kicking King was kind of just emerging as a chaser at that time. But it's a we love this race in Ireland. I just wish we'd send a few more over, Santa Claus or otherwise.
Yeah. Hayley, a race that you loved last year would have been the Welsh Grand National, Nassalam.
Yeah.
Did you give him a chance this year?
I don't think we're going to see him.
No.
No.
Ground?
No. As much as that could be an issue, he's just missed some key bits of work at home. Nothing serious, just a shoe coming off, and as you well know, being involved with horses, no foot, no horse. So we just had to give him a bit of time. Everything's like he's back now, but unfortunately, when you're getting a horse ready for a national over that trip, 3 miles 6, if it does, or 3 miles 6.5, isn't it? It's even further testing ground. You cannot afford in the build-up to miss a few bits of work. So we're not going to see him regain his title. He'll have to wait for a deluge of rain, and I'm not sure what the plan will be with him. But I'll certainly be cheering on. I think a horse that loads of people will be cheering on for the Bradstocks. That's Mr. Vango. He looked brilliant at Sandown the other day. And I was on him that day, so I'm already a big fan of his. I thought that Nico got on with him like a house on fire. I'm not sure, riding jockey bookings wise, who's going to go where, because obviously it would clash, wouldn't it, with Kempton day 2, which is a shame. But there's so much to like about him. He just gallops all day long, a relentless galloper. He's gone into here now with a £4 penalty, 11 stone, looks a really nice weight. So I'm just hoping that Sarah Bradstock and her daughter Lily are going to see Mr. Vango, win an exciting race like this. So they can do it. They can certainly
definitely
prime a horse for a big occasion. Small yard, deserve a lot more. And so I'm, in a way, I'm pleased that Nassalam won't be in the way.
So you can cheer on Mr. Vango.
Yeah, he was brilliant the other day, and I was thrilled that he won. So fingers crossed he'll win another big one for them.
Yeah, you'd argue in that London National that it probably wasn't soft enough ground, and it probably wasn't that much of a stamina test. The handicap has put him up £4, which matches his £4 penalty, so he's exactly right at the weights. And there is a bit of rain forecast next week. I haven't obviously seen the week after.
Yeah,
with
more so than
Chepstow.
More so, I think, than Kempton.
Definitely.
But Nassalam not being in the race is good for Iron Bridge, who was second, albeit 34 lengths beaten last year. I think he's overpriced. He's 25 top price.
Yeah.
I presume the Carlisle one, I know he's been entered in a couple of races, but I presume this has been the plan. Like he was a sophomore chaser going into the race last year. He's still only 8 going on 9. He stays really well. He doesn't really mind what the ground per se. Jango might run a couple in the race, but I was surprised he was 25, considering he was 8 to 1 last year. He was second, and I presume this is the plan. And he's actually he's running off £6 lower as well, which is kind of mad. So he's had obviously a patchy time of it since, but £6 lower than last year when he was 8 to 1, and he's had a perfectly good prep giving weight away to horse in Carlisle.
Yep. We'll then head across for the Irish action. 2 mile 1, the Paddy Rewards Club Chase, Leopardstown on the 27th. Johnny, we could see the return of Gaelic Warrior here. Do you see him as a proper 2 miler, a champion chaser?
He's a funny one, Gaelic Warrior, because when he won his last race over hurdles, I laid him that day thinking there's a good chance he's not going to get 3 miles. And he did, very, very comfortably. So then when he won his beginners over, 2.5, I was like, this horse could be anything. But I don't know, I'm very, very happy to take him on here. He was disappointing at Punchestown, for sure. He flopped behind Factify the last one at Leopardstown, and he hasn't stopped jumping right-handed.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't stopped, and you know, I wasn't sure what to make from at Cheltenham. And in fairness, he had so much class, he readily got away with it. But you can't forget how he still jumps out to his right. He bombed at Leopardstown last year. I'm not exactly sure what his ideal trip is, but I think probably a bit further than this.
Yeah.
And I do feel there is a very, very good bet in this race each way. And that is Gemirande National, who... Okay, well, when I say a very good bet, you're taking a chance. But he's 7-1, whereas the last 2 times he's run, he's 4-7 and 8-11. Now, he was second to Calixios and he was well held. But Calixios, to be fair, he actually has franked that form.
Yeah.
His jumping was a little bit disappointing at times. But I spoke to Barry Conn this morning. He schooled at Punchestown after the last meeting at Punchestown. You get a really, really good each way price in a race in which I think it's too early to give up on him. He's 7-8. He looked exceptional when he beat Facile Vega. He obviously looked brilliant on his Chase debut as well. This meeting means a lot to Barry Connolly. He's local to the track. I'd say Sean Flanagan might ride him. That's kind of an interesting one. Michael O'Sullivan going his separate ways, but Sean picking up some nice rides. But you know, just in terms of an each way bet in the race, I'm not giving up on Gemirande National. You're getting 7s when he's normally odds on. I'm against Gaelic Warrior. I still think there are concerns about him. Wouldn't entirely rule out Blue Lord as well, who bombed out in the hilly way, but is more than good enough to get involved. He's big price.
Yeah. Perfect. I wasn't expecting that. You're brave
No,
to leave Gemirande National. You probably caught it on camera.
He hadn't. So he'd been off he'd been off since from February to November the last day, and I know I wouldn't be too harsh on him. Like taking on Calixios, a very good horse these days. But Leopardstown coming back here, I'd be hoping for a lot better at the side of his course and distance win. But the market's made by Gaelic Warrior. I don't know what you think, but I still wouldn't be confident about him at a really, really turning sort of left-handed track.
No, and it could be a strong contest. Founder 50, he's heading here rather than the King George.
Very solid.
Dino Blue obviously won this race last season. Could come here, ran okay, I thought, in the hilly way. Ilate Tom had a bit of a setback. Not sure if heading here, but yeah, it's a good race.
It's a really good race, and even everyone's each way friend Captain Guinness is in the lineup. Don't know if we'll see him, but often once he's had his first run back, he either gets place or is fortuitous to go on and win a Grade 1 in those, like you were saying, the small field good races. He's certainly one that you can rely on. I know he's done a lot of people quite a lot of favours, but I'd always forgive his first run back. It'd be interesting to see what his targets are. Obviously, he's getting a bit older this season. Henry de Bromhead started the season really, really well, and I know he's had some horses running well, but I did just notice that his strike rates actually really did. It was like, I couldn't believe it yesterday evening on it. It's like 4%.
Yeah.
I know like he'd still had a couple of winners the last couple of weeks and horses are running well, they're being placed. But I was just surprised that I suppose he's been having lots of runners all over the country here as well in the UK.
What was the 4% in the month of December, is it?
Yeah, just dipped off a little, having started the season so well, which normally he sort of starts all right and gets better. I don't know, there's a few different trainers have done a few different things this year, like Paul Nicholls, he started off later. So, I just thought it was just something, I was just surprised at when I saw. I was thinking he'd had a really good time of things and he's had a lot of runners and maybe... but good to see.
Yeah, it's 2 from 46. From 31% in November. It's mad how. To be fair, the same numbers of runners up and thirds in November as December. So it's interesting. It's actually gone a bit over my head.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was baffled really because I'd have just been thinking, he's had a good season, good time of things, and I was like, oh, actually, maybe not with closer inspection.
So slightly sitting on the fence in that one. I want to see which side you're on for the Savills Chase. Obviously, ran at Leopardstown on the 28th. It does look a match between Factifal and Galopin Des Champs. They're currently both each of 2 at 7-4.
I'm going to go Galopin Des Champs, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
I agree. I thought that
that's all right.
I thought that performance in this race last season was unbelielievable. One of the best performances I've ever seen.
Obviously, there was high expectation on return off a break at Punchestown behind Factifal, but I'm just hoping will strip fitter for that first run back. And again, Willie Mullins' horses are now starting to get into stride. I did just worry a little bit about the ground conditions. I know Willie was leaving racing yesterday to go up and walk the course because, like you were saying, you're in need of a little bit of rain.
I live in Dublin, like it's not rained hardly at all.
Yeah.
Leopardstown rains so fast.
Yeah, it's like its own microclimate there, hasn't it? Really.
What is the plan with I Know the Way You're Thinking? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, like he's stepping up in trip here. He is 33s.
Out of all of those runners that ran in that John Durkan, he was the one that it wouldn't have suited.
No, and in fairness, it didn't suit Gallopin either. Like he does one further at this stage. But like this horse, what he achieved at Cheltenham and Aintree last season was insane.
Yeah.
It was, and at Aintree where he looked like he was sort of under pressure, and then he just goes away. And I do believe Gavin Cromwell, I might be basically paraphrasing him here, but I think he has said if I've ever had a Gold Cup horse, but like he's stepping up in trip here, and in theory, I mean, I know it's like, is he going to the Grand National? Is he going to run the Gold Cup and the Grand National? But there's no way on what he achieved last season as a novice. He should, like, I would genuinely think he's a massive chance at the Gold Cup if he runs this year and what he achieved at Cheltenham. And he's looking at these odds here. It's like, I actually didn't think Punchestown was that bad. I mean, he was 22-1 at Punchestown. If you backed him at Leopardstown off a mark of 144 last February at the Dublin Race Festival when he was beaten 30 lengths, and you saw him going off at 13-8 at Cheltenham to beat 21 horses, you're probably wondering, like, I can't make head nor tail of this anymore. So I don't know what the plan is with him, but he has serious ability, ability. So he could be flying the ointment, but I think on the ground I'd probably be with Fact to File, just in the sense of what he's achieving. And Gallopin, he's had so many hard races. Fact to File just might have improved beyond him, because there's nothing to say he's not going to improve stepping up in trip either from Punchestown. I do like this horse a lot. I probably feel I didn't rate him enough because of how bad Gaelic Warrior was at Leopardstown.
I was guilty of that as well.
Yeah, but no, he does, and he's Polyglot, who was like the sire of Don Poley, one of my favourite horses. This horse is. He's so much to like about him. That actually, the John Durkan that was one of the best renewals of the race, and then it just lived up to everything without the favourite and second favourite being involved on the day. It was brilliant.
Yeah, no, fantastic race. Yeah, I do bill this as a match, to be honest. Jerry Colomb, I was disappointed with. He obviously ran well, winning at Aintree, but didn't blow me away. Iron Maximus finished fourth in this race last season. He'll probably finish 4th, 5th again, and be targeted at Aintree later in the season. Monty Star is the one that's really quite interesting, if he was then to come here, because he was obviously second behind Fact to File, second behind Splan's Tower, but whether they'd put him in straight into this is an unknown. But
yeah, maybe.
I can't get away from Galopin des Champs winning this last season, won by 23 lengths. That was, even though he's a 2-time Gold Cup winner, on figures, that was his career best performance.
Yeah, I think that's what stands out to me. And he was out there doing all the hard work the other day, and he was just unfortunate, but going up in trip back to...
Geez, he had hard races last season. I do feel staying chases at that level, like, it's really, really hard to keep them on the go.
Yeah.
You see that, in fairness, you see how fragile they become, because it's like going to war over and over again. It's really tough. And I remember at the Gold Cup last year afterwards, I was like, I'm going to oppose him going forward after how, like, I did feel at Punchestown he was vulnerable because of it was such a hard race at Cheltenham and really attritional ground. I'd still have a slight asterisk as to whether he'll be able to maintain his form because he's been on the go so long.
Okay. I build that race as a match. The other one that probably is a match over Christmas is the December hurdle at Leopardstown.
This is straightforward. At the betting,
reverses
no, it's not. At the betting, you have to go with the mare because she's young and she's inexperienced.
Yeah.
She can jump out to her left at times, and probably did a little bit again at Punchestown.
That's going to be no negative switching to Leopardstown.
No, and she still sort of had him. I mean, I obviously felt jumping the last she was beaten, but one of poor old Jack Kennedy, like, what a ride he gave her on the day, and you know what has happened to him since, but. If you were to say to me, at even money the pair, I'd probably go with State Man, but not at like sort of 7-4, 4-7, or 2-1 even in places or whatever. Yeah, I think she's underestimated here, and it is a match.
Yeah, 8-15 State Man currently, 2-1 Brighter Days Ahead.
That's a good bet to me.
There we go. Hayley, your thoughts? And maybe your thoughts as looking at this and going forward towards the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, this is going to have implications going forward for the Champion Hurdle and the Mares Hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd love to see Lossiemouth in the champion hurdle, and that's
get rid of the mares races.
Yeah.
Just get rid of them. Like Lossiemouth and Teopa this is why we want to see mares get.
I'd love to see Lossiemouth in that race. Obviously, I'm excited to see Constitution Hill come back. Obviously, it's going to be a tough season for him ahead, having been away for so long. Fingers crossed all will be all right. But yeah, I suppose a race like this, I'm thinking of Lossiemouth and seeing who's going to be challenging her for the champion hurdle. I'd love to see her.
Imagine Lossiemouth running this.
Yeah.
Instead of getting sort of 200 words of content, it would get like 2,000. Everyone would be gagging for it, like really, like, and that without Constitution Hill.
Well, the ideal scenario over Christmas is Constitution Hill against Lossiemouth in the Christmas hurdle at Kempton.
Yeah.
And State Man against Brighter Days Ahead.
And all going to the champion hurdle.
Yeah.
Like the mares races are just, mares races have their place not at Cheltenham. Like you need, like if Dawn won, I've said this before, if they had mares race in Dawn one's time, we wouldn't be talking about her now. She'd never run a champion hurdle or a Gold Goal.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I do feel maybe State Man needed to run a shade. Yeah. Maybe he blew up.
I think State Man would be the one to stick with if they did lock horns over Christmas, just because he's 7 rising 8 older horses, and I think as they get older it is harder to get them fitter, and she's only 5 rising 6. I know it's only a couple of years, but they do just start to condition a bit more, and I just thought he'd probably needed that. She was great, she was fantastic on the day, but I would be keen to follow him in again. And then if she gets the better of him, I'm like, okay, right, then I'd jump ship. But I think on the next battle, I don't
think Jack got enough credit for that ride, because it was very difficult to know how do I get State Man beat, as well as get a mare who doesn't necessarily jump that well at times.
Yeah, she can go a bit left hand.
A bit left, and probably really a chaser, and also keep her to have a little bit left after the last. So I just felt it was perfect in every way. Fun to run a ride on a horse who stays further.
Yeah, I thought State Man ran exactly the same race as he has done the previous 2 seasons. I checked on RPRs. He ran a race of 166 in defeat last time on his reappearance. And actually that was a higher rating than both of his victories in the race. So he probably ran exactly as he normally does in his reappearance. It was just the fact that he was facing a better opponent.
Or was race face.
Correct.
That's interesting,
just quickly, I'll come to you for anything else in Ireland over the Christmas period. We've obviously got fair bits priced up, particularly the Christmas hurdle, where we could see Teahupoo again. Do you think we'll see him? Or
I'd say so. Yeah. That doesn't. I actually thought he was a little bit overpriced there. I felt in a really muddling renewal of the race the last day. I felt he was a little bit. I was amazed at the performance of Lossiemouth. I know the betting was obviously with her beforehand, but I still feel I wouldn't be too harsh on Teahupoo. For me, he looked like he was just struggling a little bit with the pace of the race over 2.5, and he'll be much better here.
You get an 11-4 with Bet365 for him in this race to beat the likes of Home by the Lead, Bob Ollinger, and the Woolpark, who we think is heading to Ascot.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that. I really do feel that if he does run, he's not going to be anything like 11-4. A couple of other horses to mention. I'm not mad on sort of tough handicap chases, like in which you've horses that probably don't have a lot in hand, but I did like Martin Brassel's horse. He's actually running 2, or he was running maybe 2 in the race. But Panda Boy, it was a funny backstory in this race. Was 3rd in it 2 years ago, 2nd in it last year. Now last year he ran behind Meeting of the Waters. I think Meeting of the Waters got 15 or 16 pounds for that. Panda Boy is 3 pounds higher. But what I really like about him is he ran subsequently over hurdles at Leopardstown and again ran a blinder. They took the cheek pieces off at Limerick, which to me would imply that they have a mind on this race.
Well worded.
Well, as much as that was, you can do whatever you want with headgear. Ultimately, like horses, there's nothing to stop you putting headgear on and off. And I like target trainers. Like we all work within the rules or whatever. And Martin Brassel is as good as it comes. Same with his stable starting now season. But so as I said, like he's 3 pounds higher than last year. But what I really like about it, Steve, is that he beat Real Steel and everything else comfortably last year. He just had Meeting of the Waters, was a bit of a blot on the day. Other than that, and he'll absolutely be targeting this race.
Yep.
And he is
10-1 with Bet365. Meeting of the Waters is 7-1 favourite, and obviously he's got that huge weight swing.
Yeah, and so I'd be sort of thinking, he'd be very competitive. I mean, you might even get bigger than 10s on the day. And the other race, there's one other British race I want to mention before I finish up, but I'll let Hayley actually say her spiel first. But the Faugheen Novice Chase Limerick, which obviously honours Faugheen, who beat Sam Crow in the race, which was great crack. I think I watched that at Leopardstown. But my kind of inkling here is that Imperial Passy is going to go here rather than Ballyburn. And I would take a chance on that. I'm not sure what the ground is exactly going to be like at Limerick, because I don't feel Willie would want to run Ballyburn here in a complete slog anyway. Now, he will definitely run a good horse in the race, but Imperial Passy, who was 2-13 at Ferryhouse, was actually wondering turning in. Is this horse in trouble here? Then he's done this a bit over hurdles as well. He ain't going to be 11-4 if he turns up.
No, perfect.
So that's obviously if he turns up.
Yep. Hayley, anything else for you? UK or Ireland?
Yep.
This is the race for him anyway. I don't see other race for him. It's just will he run him against Ballyburn?
Yeah.
Is he done? No.
Sorry, you were late now.
You can't take the stage. I suppose I'm looking forward to the racing on Saturday, 3:35, and seeing what looks at this stage a really good Ladbrokes handicap hurdle. You've got
that was my last.
Be aware that you can come in on this if you want to.
I'm all over Be Aware at the price.
Be aware.
Now, there's always that proviso. What are the Skeletons planning for this season? That performance.
That county hurdle ring does
exactly. And granted, you're taking on Dice Sartinos again, but Jesus, the way he finished his races, and he's so lightly raced. So, over to you, Hayley.
Yeah. So I'm there's Be Aware, and then there's obviously Dice Enos, who obviously she wasn't the best handicapped horse. But I still thought she ran a huge race, and I still think there's going to be more to come from her. I'm definitely going to have a bit more faith in her. Mm-hmm. And then there's a really exciting horse, Paul Nicholls is as well, Cabral de Mathan, who is in the lineup as well. So I think that race is looking really exciting. I think they're actually the three in the betting. Salva's got top weight of 12 stone off mark of 143. The ground's dried out to good. I can't see him even lining up. No. He needs it with ease in the ground. He was a little bit keen the other day at Newbury. But I'm not giving up on the mare, Dysart Enos. I still think she's off a competitive mark. And the Burdett Road form's obviously very, very strong. But it was good. It was really good to see her back. So I think she's the one that I'm going to return the faith with and watch with great interest. Paul Nicholls is exciting, unbeaten horse in the lineup as well.
I think this
looks really good.
I think Be Aware got £7 as well, which
Dice Enos was well handicapped.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like that, and that race, maybe it's not quite the champion hurdle trial it was, but like you're dealing with, I mean, Burdett Road's flat form this season. I mean, how good is Sergino, obviously, but like that was a really good race. And for a mare going into a handicap like that, like and doing so much kind of right in the race, she still ran really well. I thought the connections comments afterwards were interesting and not giving up at all. But even the two of them coupled at the moment, I'd be very happy with that. They're well handicapped.
Yeah, BOS 7-2, Dysart Enos 4-1. Yeah, I just think now Johnny Burke's ridden her, will know her a bit better, and that will definitely help going forward.
Do keep an eye out for. Sorry, I'm going to kill you here. Do keep an eye out for Fancy Girl, who beat her in that point-to-point. Who, as I said, there was so much going on at the weekend. Mallow was just thrown in, and Fancy Girl has had her problems. She was very, very good and heavily backed right in the off. So I just thought it was interesting. So keep an eye out for Fancy Girl.
Perfect. We'll be back in a second, quickly, for our best bits of the Christmas period. Before we get into our best bets of the Christmas period, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with spins on offer if you get 2 or 3 selections correct. Prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6. Terms and conditions apply. Right, Hayley, I'm going to come to you first for your best bet over the Christmas period, please.
I'm going to stick with Banbridge in the King George. I think he's a horse that has got the speed, the stamina. I think the ground conditions are going to be in his favour. We're due a little bit of rain, but I think it's going to dry out in time. And I'm hoping that he'll have a bit more luck than what he did in the Hilly Way Chase when, unfortunately, he unseated his rider. But the way the pair of them pull clear, him and Energumene, I think he's an exciting horse. So
who rides it?
I'm not sure who's going to ride him just yet.
I know JJ wanted to be back for Punchestown on his recovery is certainly taking longer.
Yeah.
But that will be interesting.
Yeah.
That actually is also my best ride, though. My best.
Your best bet as well. Yeah.
Balance Tower did win on yielding, but to me it looks like I don't know. I even if he does run, I'd still be very respectful of Banbridge and taking that proviso. 8-1 is outstanding value, I think.
But it's when he came over for the Sylvian Arco Conti race last year, proved a real liking for
that's big.
Oh no, it was this year actually.
Yeah.
It was
Earlier
in
this year.
January, earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice performance at the track. So I think it's exciting that he's being targeted back at Kempton.
It's like Countdown when you have to confer. No, I did pick the same eight-letter word. It's an 8-1 shot. So.
Yeah. No, I get that.
You going to go with Banbridge as well?
No, mine's going to be a pre-Christmas treat. It's going to be Victorino in the Silver Cup at Ascot, the 3 o'clock on Saturday, the 3-mile handicap chase that he won last season. He has a superb record at the track. He's only £1 higher than when beating Yeah Man in the race last season. That rival is now rated £12 higher, won the Grand National trial at Haydock and finished third in the Troy Town. He was only fourth behind the rear pose in 3 under 3.5 in February, but he was getting £6 that day. He gets £12 from that rival in this race, and Victorino also has the benefit of a reappearance run, which was that really eye-catching run in the Coral Gold Cup. Looked like he was going to be pulled up at one stage, stayed on really well to finish third at the finish. I expect him to jump much better at Ascot, and we've already touched on the fantastic form of Venetia Williams. He's a standout price of 5-2 at Bet365, and I think he's a great bet on Saturday.
5-2 into 8-1 is what's that? 2 gone on to 5. That brings you 7 multiplied by 8, 58 for €2.
There you go.
There you go.
Nice little double for Christmas.
Easily done.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me on this week's episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365.
Many thanks. Got my maths wrong there. It's 7 by 9, so it's 60. Isn't that 63? I'm actually losing my ability. €63 back, £63 back for your £2 double.
Love
There we go. Better again.
Perfect. I would say many thanks to Johnny for joining me, and it has been an absolute pleasure, even though we are now slightly over the hour.
I think
mark.
it's Saturday now, is it?
Yeah, quite possibly. And thanks, Hayley, for coming again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
What does just off topic? What does the Moore household?
Oh, tell us all about this,
how does Christmas look for you?
Busy.
Yeah.
Is Ryan
Normally, Ryan's calling in on Monday before Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, the clan are down there because their youngest son now is in full-time work.
Yeah.
So it's all changed now.
And all ride out together in the morning?
Yes, yeah, it sounds dreamy, but it's not. It's all quite stressful trying to get everything done so the staff can get off home and go and enjoy Christmas lunch as well, and then quick evening stables. So yeah, it's quite full on, quite busy because you're going to be having plenty of runners. So it's quite a normal day actually, just with a big feed in between.
Perfect.
Some riding talent there.
Certainly is. Certainly is. Right, that's it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Merry Christmas to all of you from the Racing Weekly team. We'll be back in January in the company of Brian Cooper for the Dublin Racing Festival preview. Thank you.